What I'm about to describe to you, you might know, but then again, you might not, which is possibly for a good reason. Let me explain. So I'm gonna go over 3 main characteristics of this device, and why don't you guess which phone this is. So, first of all, this phone was the first device to introduce 3D touch. Secondly, this smartphone introduced 70% faster CPU performance and 90% faster GPU performance. And lastly, this was the last iPhone to have a headphone jack. So if you've already guessed the phone, then put it down in the comments below. But if not, then we're gonna have to turn back the clock to 2015. So when this phone was introduced, everybody was extremely happy because it had one major feature that everybody thought would go viral, and all sorts of third-party developers would incorporate it into their apps. But this actually turned out not to be the truth, and we're gonna get to this at the end of the video. But this phone I am referring to is the iPhone 6s Plus. And today we're going to see how this $95 iPhone compares to the latest iPhone released. But to do this, we have to go over performance, battery, display, and operating system. So let's start out with performance. So when this phone first came out, as I mentioned earlier, it had 70% faster CPU performance, which was absolutely insane. Not for that time, but for now. If an iPhone had that much of an increase in performance, that would be pretty awesome. So it was really fast for its time. But today it's a different story. Performance has not been great for me. Browsing the web is fairly slow. And just overall, everything is a little bit glitchy and not quite up to par with even the latest budget phones. But it's still okay considering the phone came out in late 2015. So next, let's move on to battery. And battery is even worse. It's actually barely usable. I get less than 1 hour of screen on time with this device. And do bear in mind that the battery on my phone has worn out quite a lot since it was first bought. But still, even at 70% capacity, which is around what Apple says in the iOS battery settings, it's still just not amazing, and that's definitely hardly usable even for today. Now on the more positive side of the spectrum, display is actually pretty good. The colors are great, it's fairly clear, it's about 1080p resolution, so that's really awesome to see. It's no OLED like the latest iPhones have, but it still is pretty good, and for everyday use it's absolutely adequate. Now lastly, let's go over the operating system, and then we're going to go over some of the more minute things that people might not care about quite as much about this phone. So the operating system is actually the latest version of iOS, so that's awesome to see. But I doubt it's going to get the iOS 16 update, which is necessary if you want security. Having the latest iOS is fairly essential to that. But it does have all the widget features, all that stuff, and it is still running the latest iOS version right now. Since iOS, though, does not get security updates past its discontinuation, like macOS does, it could become an issue in the future with not getting iOS 16. Although, then again, if you're really safe and you don't download any malicious apps or go to any weird websites, you should be okay. So you might be wondering about camera, and camera is okay on this phone. It does not compare to the latest iPhone SE 2022 that has a much better camera, but it's still okay. So the real question is, should you buy this phone in 2022? And I would say no, not for $95, not even for $70. I would say it's best to get this other phone, which is the iPhone 8 Plus. It has a really good battery. The display is pretty much the exact same. Camera is better. It will get more software updates in the future. And overall, it's a faster phone, so I would definitely recommend that for $170. I'm going to put both of these phones down below, as well as the iPhone SE 2022, if you do want to buy it. So I can recommend the iPhone 8 and also the iPhone SE 2022, but less so. You don't get the same display size, and also there's just not a ton of improvements since the iPhone 8. So if you were wondering what feature I was referring to earlier that everybody thought was going to be revolutionary but it ended up being discontinued by Apple, that was actually 3D Touch. Everybody thought that would be amazing and third-party developers would incorporate it in their apps, but it ended up just being discontinued by Apple in the iPhone 11 series. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe if you like this type of content. Until next time.